All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another episode of the Board of Advisors podcast. And today I have a very special guest, somebody that has been through thick and thin from the beginning of kind of the launch of Broadstaff, now doing impressive numbers per year. We're going to dive into that. We have Miss Carrie Charles, Broadstaff, broadstaffglobal.com. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome her to the show. How you doing today?
I am awesome. Thanks for having me. I'm excited. Finally.
I know. We worked so hard to get you here.
We did.
It's when you're in high demand and you're expected to be in every different time zone throughout the week, it's sometimes challenging, but it was definitely worth the effort. Let's dive into a couple great questions right off the bat. First off, you took over Broadstaff. What year? Was that 2019?
Yes. So it was 2019, I believe. It was like September of well, no, actually it was earlier than that. So September of 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And then I bought out my partner in January of 2019.
So transitioning, though, your prior life was definitely not what you're doing now. Well, tell me just a little bit about that, because I think there's a lot of great qualities and skill sets that carried over, which make you so successful in what you're doing today. But give me a little bit of that prior life.
Yes. Actually, I joined Broadstaff as an owner of the company in 2016, and then I took over as CEO in 2018. So that's how it happened. But yeah, my prior life, I mean, boy, I've done a lot of different things, and I've pretty much been in sales my whole life. I mean, that's where I'm good. That's where I'm comfortable. And I've been in the financial services industry as a certified financial planner. And I had my own company, had quite a few clients there, and then transitioned over to spend some time in the mortgage industry and also in real estate. And I was always an entrepreneur.
Maybe even a little bit in the military, right?
Yeah. So when I believe it was, 18 years old, I joined the Marines, and then I actually my MOS was in telecommunications, and I never thought I would be in telecom again.
How ironic!
I know.
It's funny how everything comes full circle, and now that's fairly common. Back then, that wasn't really that common, right?
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, it was just something I did truthfully, to get my life on track, because I wasn't going in a great direction, and I was in college. My father died tragically. There's a whole story around that. And then I dropped out of college, and I just was not leading the life that I knew I wanted to lead. And so a Marine Corps recruiter came up to me and some friends in a parking lot and wanted to talk about the Marines. And my friend looked at me and she said, "You could never do that." And I said, "Really?" And so I said, "Watch me." And I joined pretty much on a dare. I walked over, and I knew I needed to save my life and turn it around. But I walked right over and I signed up in that second. I didn't even think about it. I said, "I got to do this." And then it was the rest. There's a big story there, but the rest is history. It was one of the best things I ever did.
But essentially, you knew you needed to put yourself in an environment that was going to make you better.
Right. And I knew that I was such a strong-willed person that the Marines is probably the only thing that could have done it, because I needed something that was going to be pretty intense, and I chose well.
So you ratcheted it up to outperform yourself in order to make you better.
Yes.
So getting out of the Marines, you obviously had a colorful or a variety of adventures there. What would you say, before we get into Broadstaff, what would you say are a few of the principles that you really carried over from that rainbow of experiences into Broadstaff that kind of contribute to some of your successes today? Just if we wanted to hit the high points, because you are definitely a go-getter. You've done since we've met, you've done some pretty big things in a short period of time, but usually that is because of having some pretty hard lessons, developing some pretty solid principles and discipline, which gives you that ability. So talk to me about that a little bit.
Gosh, you just said really the first one is discipline. And it's something that I never had when I was younger. In fact, I didn't have it at all until the Marines. And that is something that I believe is a huge part of my success. In everything that I've done, I have extreme discipline. I mean, everything from my health and workouts, business. I mean, it's probably one of the biggest reasons why I'm successful, because I am very consistent with that. It's not just discipline every now and then. So I think that's a major factor. And, the other piece is that I'm very driven and I have this, this desire to succeed, but I've got this incredible perseverance and, I will make it happen. I will win. And I'm going to do it. Like if I set my sights on something and I want to achieve it, like I'll do anything to make that happen. And I think from just looking at, manifesting goals and creating that, once I decide what I want, then my brain just goes to work to figure out how it's going to happen. So I think that's a big one, is that, that perseverance and sticking through something. And I'm very loyal. I don't give up very easy. I never give up. And so if you just don't give up, then it's going to happen. And, the other piece I think is a really big piece for me, and it's my foundation in everything that I do, is faith. And that has carried, with me throughout my life and childhood. That's your
compass.
That is my compass. That's my North Star. And every single thing I do, it's grounded in my faith.
And tell me the difference here, because I feel like we have some similarities there in just that perseverance and the dedication to accomplishing a goal. How do you determine whether it's going to work or not, though? Because do you ever get to a point where you're doubting yourself and you think, okay, maybe this just isn't going to work and I need to think about doing something different? Or do you just say, I am going to figure it out? Tell me the difference there, because sometimes a plan B may be better than plan A.
You're absolutely right. And there have been times where I have changed direction, pivoted, changed course. And typically it's, my thermometer, again, goes back to, that faith component and my intuition, my gut. Some people call it their gut, and I think in business, we don't listen enough to our gut and we second guess it. And so when I set a goal and I check in all the time, is this where I'm supposed to be? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing right now? And if that still feels very strong to me, then I know for a fact that I've got to keep going and push through everything and find every solution in order to get there. And, but there are times where things don't, again, so many people say, I hear, oh, business is not about feelings. But it is to me. It is. And I've really perfected how to use those feelings and that intuition and that faith in order to produce results in business.
Instinct.
That's a great word.
There's a lot of all of those experiences build up to a level of instinct that can give you bearings on what is possible or what is not. An instinct, whether you need to change course or whether you need to push through. I like the fact that you actually took the chance and threw yourself into a container like the Marines to make yourself better. I also like the fact, I think you even did that with Board of Advisors, in the very beginning. You threw yourself into the arena in order to make yourself better to a degree, or your network better, the relationship capital on hand, right? And, in life, give me something that we can pass to a listener that encourages them to put themselves, like you do, into a container, into, say, a membership, into something that is going to make themselves better. Because I think a lot of people fantasize about it, they think about it, and they watch others do it on social media, but you actually do it.
Yes, I do it all the time. And, I put myself in situations where I'm going to be uncomfortable. And many times there's a lot of fear present and uncertainty. And it could be something like, all right, I'm uncomfortable spending this money to be here, but I know that I need to be here and it's going to be good for me. So I'm going to go ahead and take that risk. I'm a big risk taker. I really am. And I think that's another reason for the success of my companies. But, when I look at an organization or a place that I need to be, where I need to be with certain people, I think everything is about the people you're around, right? And I know that the saying of, you become most like the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? And that is so true, but on a bigger scale. Like, you really need to surround yourself with the people that are going to lift you where you want to be. And if that means that you need to buy a ticket to fly somewhere or take a risk and, spend the money to do this or that or the other, it's worth it. And that's my network is, that's probably the reason for Broadstaff's success, other than I talked about faith. But the network that I've built, it's all about people.
That's actually what I've watched you build.
Yes.
Because since the time that we met, watching you even inside of Board of Advisors and outside, you have put Herculean effort into being on as many platforms, in front of as many eyeballs, having the right magazines, having the right eyeballs, right conversations, building the right relationships, not only with audiences, but also the right founders, the right investors, the right clients. And even one of the stories that we were just discussing, where you got on the plane, went out to the meeting, sat in front of ownership and just said, I want to know what you need. We're going to figure it out. Part of it is just showing the eagerness and enthusiasm to get yourself on their team, even when they're saying, oh, maybe not timing, your tenacity ends up creating a gravity where people are just like, yeah, we want her on our team, right? You've built a great network. So if we were to look into the future, can we share some numbers?
Yeah.
Because I think when we first met, we were doing a couple million, right?
Well, I think when we first met, I was right around 5-6 million.
5-6.
Yes,
okay.
5-6.
And then you had a monster year.
Yeah, we grew rapidly year over year. It was just, then to, 7 and then to 10 and 12. And last year we went from 12 to 30 million in just 1 year.
And if you could attribute that to anything or a couple things, what would be those factors?
Okay. Number one is investing in people. So I invested in the talent that was probably more than we could pay for, right? And I got the best leadership and talent that we could get on the planet, in my opinion, because I think it's the entire success, okay, or even in a high growth company, you've got to have the right people that have the same mindset and the right mindset. And I don't mean same way of thinking. I mean, everybody's on the ship rowing in the same direction and rowing as fast as one another, right? There's not one person over here and going, oh, I don't want to go that fast. So when you're looking at high growth, you've got to have the right people that have that sense of urgency, and they're smart, they're good at what they do. And I did hire people that have experience, and they could walk right in and make it happen. And I think that's the first thing. The second piece of it has, of course, we hear a lot about culture eats strategy for breakfast. But it is so true that when you create a vision for people who are the right people in the right seats, and get everybody aligned and excited and motivated, and, it's magic can happen, right? And that's what happened with us. We all set a goal together, and it was magical. And we just talked about it every day. We focused so intensely on this one goal together as a team. And it was all about us. It was not about me and my vision. It was about us. And it took on a life of its own and had momentum. And, we achieved it together and owned it together. So I think that's a major part of it as well. And then the other piece is I'm very unrealistic about things. I am not, I guess I'm a big thinker, but I truly believe that anything's possible. When my kids were younger, they're like, Mom, anything is not possible. Like, you're just way too positive all the time. But I really, truly believe that. And I believe that if we have the right mindset, and then everyone, that's on that boat rowing in the same direction has that mindset, that anything can be possible. So I truly believe that our goals are possible, like in my heart. And I think what that also does is that it has other people believe that. They're like, wow, if she believes it, wow, maybe, okay, well, we can do it. And I think that was a big part of it, is my unrealistic thinking and visioning, and the fact that I truly believed it could happen, and it did.
And just listening to you describe that, I felt the evolution of your role, because you're putting these players on your team. Interestingly enough, you're building your team in a company that is staffing teams for other businesses or in the telecommunications industry. But your team is paramount in order for that to work. And as that starts to prop up, your role changes. You become less of a doer on the day-to-day, and you're beginning now to guide the ship. And those are much different activities. Tell me a little bit about how did that feel? How did that transition for you?
Yes, and I will say that we just launched our technology and IT division. So now we're telecommunications and IT. And so, we're branching out into other verticals.
Reminds me, I have another one.
Yes.
We need to get on it.
Yeah. So we're excited about that. So we've got some new verticals we're looking at. And, but it's interesting, Mike, because delegation has always been challenging for me, and I've always been a lead by example leader. And
I can identify.
Servant leader. And look, I'm going to get in before you. I'm going to stay later than you. I'm going to do everything I want. No one can outwork me, right? I'm going to work. I want to be an example for people. And so it was really hard for me to delegate and to take my seat as a CEO, because I wanted to be in the trenches, just like in the Marine Corps, right? I wanted to be right in the trenches with my team, roll up my sleeves.
Showing them how to do it.
Let's go. I'm here with you, and I'm doing it too. And, it's interesting because I had to transition. Yeah. There was a point where we started growing so fast. I mean, it was really fun, but it was just like on this really crazy roller coaster that was just going straight up. And we started growing so fast that I had to be pushed. I got to a point where I was in such overwhelm and I mean overwhelm in a good way, because I love what I do and I get fired up by it. But I would work during the week, right? Long hours. And then I would catch up on Saturday and Sunday. And I was on 7 days a week, and then maybe 2 Saturdays a month I would take off and have fun. But otherwise, I mean, I had to work every single weekend in order just to stay here, right? Yeah. And not go under. And it was taking a toll on me. I still loved what I did, and I was excited and everything, but I thought, I can't sustain this. And I was working with, consultants and, in fact, board of advisor member, Carl Gold. And, he said, okay, first thing first, we've got to get you to delegate, to be a leader and not work in the business, but work on the business. And it was a difficult transition. It was like I was demon possessed, or no. And I would have calls with coaches, and they're like, are you doing what you're supposed to be doing with delegating? I'm like, they're like, no, you're not. And so it was about a year. It took about a year for me to turn that ship and sit in the seat where I'm sitting now. And I'll tell you, ever since I actually made that transition to now I'm leading and I'm delegating and I'm leading, and in the company now is, oh my gosh, is it working so much better? And all the leadership, everyone is like, thank God. Okay, you got out of the way a little bit, and now we can all do what we need to do. And so, like, oh, I should have done this sooner, right? But it was a difficult transition, and I think it is for leaders many times, especially the ones that have that incredible, intense work ethic. Yeah. And so it's where I am today is I still have those feelings, right? It's like, jump in, do it. Just jump. You can do it. Just jump in, get it done. And I'm like, no, trust your leaders. They can do it. And trust your team. And trust was a big factor for me because truthfully, I had trust issues my whole life, really. I mean, on the personal side. And that was a transformation I had to go through, was to really trust my team and trust these people to, and maybe make mistakes as well and be there for them and guide them and coach them. And I've grown so much as a leader just in the last 2 years. It's unbelievable. I'm very thankful for it.
I know our lovely producer is literally laughing right now at your conversation because he and I took a moment off to the side. Our business here in the community of Board of Advisors is a very intimate business in the sense of you build a relationship, you want to serve that relationship, and we have so many of them, and you're trying to set the example for your staff on how that needs to be done. And then what happens is there's an attachment of the member to you, and then to move that attachment over to somebody else on the staff is like, well, but we want your time. And it's an interesting situation. And one of my guys is just like literally hitting home every single point. Right? Like, Mike, just let us do what we need to do, right? It's fine. Just let us take it. So I know he's listening right now to what you're saying, and he's like, yeah, I think she just checked off every single point I made in our 3-hour meeting the other day.
Right.
So funny. But I think it's because we care, but we also have to realize that we're then better suited many times. We hired them to do a thing, let them do their thing, and then nurture them. It's a different application of our talent to nurture them and take care of them in their role versus being in the business.
Right, and I think that's when the company can really scale, is when you get to that point where, okay, I'm not the face of the company right now, or at least I need to get to that point of not being the face of the company. And I want the brand to stand on its own, not be me. And so I was the face of the company for many years. And there were, just like you said, I mean, people wanted to talk to me, and they said, they would call me and reach out to me. And so I had to just turn that ship and
how did you do that?
So what I did is I just started passing it. And then I would really lift up the person that I was passing it to with the client and do the handoff, but lift them up, right? And then I would be involved in the beginning, and then I would hand off. In fact, I still do that.
You created confidence in the client
in my team and the people.
To work with this person due to certain factors, so that I'm sure you probably checked in on them every once in a while, but to get them in the hands of somebody that, right. and that makes a lot of sense, because I can see you potentially framing it in a way that, look, Corey over here is going to be able to spend more time with you. He has more bandwidth to do critical thinking and plan with you better for whatever the needs are. When you get me, you're going to get, yes, the owner, but you're also getting me in a manner that is much less potent than if we're working with a dedicated rep.
Right. Now, here's the other piece of it. Not only did I lift them up and build confidence, but I lifted them higher than myself. So what I would do is I would say, look, here, for instance, I'll take, there's Mike and Craig, who my COO and my Chief Growth Officer. And I would say, okay, Craig is going to be on this call. Mike's going to be on this call with you. And they have enormous experience, way more than I do in this industry. They've got this much experience. They've been doing this. And I go and I literally lift them way higher, where I want the client to actually be glad that they're talking to them and not me.
That you're not on it.
That I'm not on it.
Yeah.
It's almost like, oh, wow. Okay, well, I'm actually glad that you're not here. I want him, not you. And I'll tell you the biggest piece that we as leaders need to get out of the way with our ego. Our ego. And that is where you get to that freedom and that scaling, because as long as your ego is involved and you have to be the one who knows, and you've got to be the one who's the star, and you've got to be the one in the front, you're not ever going to scale, because you've got to get out of the way and you've got to let people stand in front of you and be smarter than you and be better than you and lift them up. And now the client is going to even prefer. I have so many of my clients now, they're like, hey, where's Mike? Where's Craig? What's going on? Are they available? Where's Lisa? Is Lisa here? And instead of me feeling like, oh man, they don't even want to talk to me anymore, I feel so good, like mission accomplished, because I lifted them so high that now they have they want to go direct.
This is why I love doing this, because not only is it a great conversation, it's just a reinforcement. These conversations make a lot of people out there better, but I also feel like they make me better. It's a reward. It's a privilege to be able to do an activity like we're doing right now. And it's a constant refortification of just what it takes to build something great, right? I think what you're hitting on is extremely timely as well for a lot of people out there. So thank you for that. And the ego, trading out the ego to earn the respect of the client, in the sense of you don't need the credit. They respect you more for putting somebody that competent on the team. And it's actually a better look. It's like, wow, right? Because there is a doubt in the subconscious, the back of their mind, that she can't support all of this. Right? Yes. Am I going to get enough? Right? There's that, especially on a renewal of a contract or something like that. Are we going to get enough from her? Yeah. So it's what a great piece of the conversation. Also, too, so you've had amazing growth. You've built a very competent team. Describe to me the value that you think now, because of you not being on the brand and the brand having its forward facing versus you are now out of the picture. How did that affect your valuation?
Oh my gosh. So I'm very clear that it has increased the valuation, because let's say that I step away, the business will do equally as good, right? If not better, without me. And that's strong, right? From a valuation standpoint, because anytime that the founder, owner, CEO is so involved with the business that they can't step away, they can't go on a 3-week vacation, which I'm getting ready to take, that you get dinged for that, right? With valuation. So I think it's very, very important to move that where the brand is standalone. Recently, I've just noticed so many things lately that have been happening because I have stepped back and I've really let my team move forward. And, they've created, internal events where they had a spirit week, and they all dressed up, and they dressed up in different outfits and did a Barbie day, and they did this entire thing that was just amazing. And I was on vacation when they did it all. I wasn't even part of it, and they created the whole thing. Yesterday, so I have my team right now reading the book Traction, all my leaders, and we're implementing EOS. And so I'm out of that because I read it first with my senior leadership team, and then I delegated that to Bethany, who is she's our vice president of recruiting. She's a great leader, and so she's now taking that to the other leaders. So I was out of that whole process. Completely. And yesterday, they presented to me an entire plan that they created. I wasn't even involved in any of it. I mean, everything, all the details. And I honestly had tears in my eyes. I was so moved because I thought, I didn't do any of this. I was not involved. Like, their passion and their commitment to this company, that they're gonna just, the thing I really think happens when you step back and you like let that, and you're still the one. People still love you, and you're still the guy or the gal, right? You're the one that created it. But when you step back and you push people forward, then they take ownership of that company. And all of a sudden, guess what you've done? You've activated their voice. And when you activate the voice, especially of the millennial generation, right, which most of our leaders are millennials now, a big segment of the workforce, when you activate that voice and let them have a voice and stand up and lead and have ideas, and now you've got diversity of thought and they get excited. I mean, it's an explosion of innovation. It's amazing.
And when you say putting them first or pushing them forward,
right?
Great term. How do you do that?
So I don't make it about me, and I don't push necessarily my ideas. Now, every now and then I will say, okay, I have an idea. What do you think? Right? And then we discuss it. And then there are ideas sometimes where I do pull the CEO card and say, okay, we're doing this, right? But for the most part, I want to know what their ideas are and listen to it without me getting my view getting involved. So just to give you an idea. So recently, something was brought to my attention, and it was brought to my attention from someone maybe, 3 or 4 levels down the food chain. And so they brought this up, right? And then it got to me, and the first thing I thought is, no, there's no way we're doing this. Every time I say no to somebody's idea, or I start resisting it, and I stop myself and say, Carrie, listen. Is there another way to do this that you're not seeing? Listen to this idea. And so I had to quiet my mind, and I was open, and I said, okay, Carrie, I'm talking to myself a lot. It's like, okay, just listen. Is there another way? Get into that person's world. I want you to step over there into their world and see life like they see it. And then I get over there and I think, you know what? They're right. I would feel the same way too. And once I do that, then I said, okay, we're changing the policy. But my first answer was no. And had I not had this skill as a leader, then I would have immediately said no and crushed the spirit of 2 people that are very valuable in this company. And they may have left. It's a retention issue, right? They may say, really? Carrie feels, whatever, they would, have this resentment. And so I like to do that. It's so hard because sometimes my opinions are so strong. And
where do you learn that skill, or where do you get that tool set to do that?
Okay, that's a good point. So I have done crazy amounts of personal growth and development. I mean, I've been in seminar after seminar and studying, and I was involved with landmark education for 25 years, and I did, communications courses and read books.
What do you think your dollar investment is?
Oh, please.
No, just
personal growth.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You think you have
a couple million?
Couple million?
Probably. I mean, it's a lot, but I have invested so much in that, for sure.
Let's say 2 million.
Okay.
Couple million, 2 million, right? And what do you think the valuation of the company either is today or in 12 to 24 months?
Today probably between 25 and 30 million, and then we're going to 100. That's the goal. So,
I remember when you first kind of took over, you said, we're going to 100.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So in that investment, right, without those skills, and I think the most important skills for a leader, and if you're an entrepreneur and you don't have people skills, right, the right people skills, you need to get a partner that does, or people in the company that do, because you cannot build a solid company that's going to scale without the right communication skills and people skills.
How many people are on your team?
We have about 250 employees throughout the country, 50 internals.
Yes, because you're in staffing for telecom, so 250 deployed, but 50 internal, which is, in my mind, that's your company. Your team.
50. So my team would be the 50.
Yeah.
I mean, we're still responsible for those other 200, but I don't sit with them every week and have
they're deployed
meetings.
on projects.
They're deployed on projects.
With other companies.
Exactly. So then I would say that's our total team is 50.
They're your product in a sense.
Right.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Interesting. Very interesting. What do you think you need to do to take it from that 25 to 100 What are the things that lay ahead of you?
Let me just mention one more thing about people first that's important, because I think this is another area where we miss as leaders, is it's authentic that I care. Like my network, I really care about them and I really want to serve them and help them. Like I'll do anything for them, whether it's something personal or whatever. Like I really, truly love people. Yes.
Well, do you think they feel that you care about them, or do you care about the outcome more?
I think they totally feel like I care about them. And my team the same way, because I do. I love people. Like
You do. You are
love
very
people.
There's a magnetic or an attraction. Like when you enter the room, there's an energy that everybody just loves Carrie, wants to talk to Carrie, but you're so approachable too, regardless of how you've hit a rock star status, businesswoman of the year on all the magazine covers. Everybody wants you on the podcast. Everybody wants you on, their platform. There is an absolute friendliness, kindness, the ability to be approached. Your ego is definitely not out in front, but you do also respect yourself enough to draw the line on your time so that you're good for everybody.
And if you're not like that, and some people are just not like that, you need someone on your leadership team or a partner that is like that and has a heart like that.
As a company solidifying their product, starting to build their team, what is the most important early or first hire? Like I always say, it's something, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if you are a CEO, you've figured out a great value proposition, product, platform, service, what is the first couple key hires that you just have to make?
So it depends on where your genius lies. Mm-hmm. And if your genius does not lie in sales, it has to be some sort of a sales individual contributor, rock star, revenue generator, rainmaker, and potential sales leader. So if you're not strong there, it has to be that person, because without sales, you really have nothing, right? But if you have that strength there, then I would say the next hire, that first crucial hire, would be that that operator, that integrator, that someone who can just take it all and make it all make sense, right? So I'm out there just selling, going 100 miles an hour, and they're just picking up behind me, executing, making it happen, right? And so it would be that match.
I agree. And I think that's probably why I tend to like the sales conversation quite a bit myself.
Do you want to go back to your other question about how to take it from here to 100 million?
I agree with the COO or integrator, the operator.
COO, integrator.
Because that's usually the thing that kind of gets neglected, and then people start to sell, they acquire some business, they're focused on fulfillment, but then all these cracks develop because the operations were never really addressed, processes and systems and accountability. And I think for me, that's where we have, in my ventures over time, hiring that person too late in the game has been probably the worst mistake. It's almost, if I were to ever advise somebody, that is the first hire, for me, because I like sales. But if you don't have that operator, who's catching all the stuff,
and that could be you, right? It could be, there are people who start companies.
If you don't have that person.
No, exactly. And some founders are integrators, and they don't have the visionary or that, that person who's very, very strong in sales, or, so it just depends on, I would say first, really identify what are your strengths, right? And then you staff, obviously, your weaknesses, or look for your opposite.
And then to get from 25 to 100, how are we going to do it?
Yes. Okay, so we have to launch other verticals, and we're doing that now. So we're looking at other areas of opportunity. Like I said, we are building out our IT division and sales team and recruiting team, and so very excited about that. We have some very high-level IT talent that are our leaders that have been with some of our competitors for 10, 15 years, and so we're poised there. So really, to get to that point, we are going to have to develop other verticals and build those out. The other thing is, obviously, we have to continue to build our team, right? And we have to continue to hire. And I know right now it's a challenging time for everyone. Economic conditions, industry conditions for us in the telecommunications industry, and for staffing as well. It's challenging for staffing. So this has been a tough year for us. But the key to getting there is to continue to hire and continue to build that team in the face of difficulty. And what I'm talking about is sales team, right? So we are continuing to build our sales team so we can continue that growth pattern. And, as we move from I guess the, level to level to level. And again, I haven't done it yet, so I don't know. I've never built a $100 million company, so I don't know necessarily yet what it's going to take. But I do know for sure that I'm going to have advisors around me, people who've done it, people who know. And that's very, very important, because I can go to them and say, okay, am I doing what I need to do here? Is this happening the way it's supposed to happen? What about this? What about that? And they've done it. And so they're right next to me as I build this thing, giving me the advice that I need. And I think that is going to be absolutely crucial.
You are very targeted in the way that you procure relationships in the sense of business.
Yep.
You know what you need. You find who to talk to. You get that advice. You're putting it into action. It's cool to watch. I mean, you've done a great job.
Thank you.
How long have you been? You've been in board of advisors for how long?
I think 4 years now.
4 years. Mm-hmm. What an amazing growth pattern and track record. I love the fact that you've not only been with BA, but you've had great success. And I love to invite people to, meet a Carrie Charles. It's a privilege to be able to have that in membership, where the right, like Natalie, right here at the studios, the right people coming to the table to meet an individual like you, that where, on the way in the door, who made the most sense for you? On the way in the door now for them, you make the most sense for them. And it's just such a great yin and a yang, right? Coming in, helping you with challenges is absolutely rewarding, but also, having you as a solution to theirs, right? We're in a great position, and we have a wonderful privilege of working with individuals just like you. And I'd like to encourage anyone that thinks they're ready, anyone that is enthusiastic about sitting at a table with a talent, a force like Carrie Charles, Broadstaff, broadstaffglobal.com. All you have to do is go to boardofadvisors.com. It's a simple form. Schedule a call, hop on a call with me or one of the other enrollment specialists. And I mean, I love the fact that we are able to conjure that type of activity for you and they at an upcoming meeting and on the platform. Carrie, today, what would you leave us with?
The thing that comes to my mind is just think bigger and just crush your fear. Think bigger and go for it. Forget about the economic conditions and what's going on. That's all mental. Just go ahead and create what you're meant to create and get out there and go and don't worry about anything else.
Well, one thing that is guaranteed for sure, it's change. And it's going to change. Sure. While everyone else is afraid, while everyone else is concerned with exactly what you just mentioned, pushing forward is really the only and best option if you're going to win.
Because it's all a head game. It's in your head.
It's totally a head game.
A head game. And
everybody says mindset. But it's that persistence that just, you got a few numbers on the board and you just keep racking them up.
Yep. Some of the most successful companies in America were started during a recession. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can name them all off, but we don't have time. But, there's opportunities everywhere. And if we get stuck in our head and we watch the news and we let all that in, then it can really block us. So I just like to leave us with just go.
Coming out of this, going. I think we will see one of the largest growth spikes.
Yes. Because
of AI, because of technology. There are things now that accelerate so much of what is possible coming out of this, that keep your head down. And that's one thing. Next podcast, we'll jump into AI. I'd love to know what you're doing with that, if you're doing anything with that. We can cover that. How do you best do that in staffing, or how do you empower your staffing with AI on the next podcast with Carrie Charles.
You got it.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It was another great one.